Silver is back in the spotlight. Prices have surged past $50 an ounce for the first time in over a decade, driven by investor demand, industrial use, and tightening global supply. It's a moment when every new ounce of production counts. And now Endeavour Silver has brought its Terronera mine in Mexico into full commercial production, a key milestone that could reshape the company's growth path. Well, joining us now is Dan Dickson, CEO of Endeavour Silver. Dan, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thanks for having me. It's always good to be back on.
Well, look, this is a major step for Endeavour, isn't it? I mean, Terronera is now in commercial production. What does that mean in practical terms for your outputs and cash flow going into 2026?
It's significant. I mean, 2 years ago when we announced the construction of Terronera, we used to say it was going to double our production and cut our cost profile in half. I mean, Endeavour was built with our Guanaceví and Bolañitos mines. We've been operating there for 20 years and 19 years, respectively. Terronera is a fresh game changer for us. Terronera in itself, it will be one of the lowest cost producing silver assets in our space, whereas Guanaceví, Bolañitos are mature assets. It's a kind way of saying higher cost assets, shorter mine lives. So we're very excited right now to have Terronera come online. Obviously, when silver's hitting all-time highs, it's great to bring a mine on to get that payback relatively quickly. With the cost at Terronera, gold's going to pay for all the silver that we produce. It's going to be very significant cash flow, especially at these prices.
Look, and that's exactly where I want to come in, because silver prices now have jumped, above $50 an ounce. How does that shift your priorities? I mean, do you lock in prices or ride the market momentum?
Yeah, I mean, we're a public vehicle. Ultimately, people that are investing in Endeavour Silver, their first hypothesis of the investment is they believe in higher silver prices. And there's going to come a time that we're going to hit that top, and you want to try to push that out and sales out as best you can. But I think there's still room to run here. Obviously, gold hit all-time highs almost 2 years ago now at this point, and we've seen almost a double over the last year and a half in gold. Silver's just hit its all-time highs and come through that. I think there's a little bit more run there. Of course, we manage a business, and how our priorities change, I don't think they do change. I think we just continue to focus on executing from an operational standpoint. Obviously, when we're evaluating other projects, the change in silver price is adjusted, but I think we have to be conscious that if we do live in cycles, and ultimately where we see long-term silver, it's going to be higher. Hopefully it's higher from where we're at today. They're hard to find primary silver mines. We've been looking for the last 2-3 years. And in fact, earlier this year with going into commission at Terronera, we bought a mine out of Peru called Minera Culpa to add to our silver portfolio.
Look, you've said in your press release that higher grade zones will be reached by mid-2026. How significant could that be for production volumes and costs?
Yeah, I mean, with Terronera just coming online, and we're not talking massive changes to grade. So right now we're running kind of 300 grams silver equivalent between 2 gram gold and 120 grams silver. That will flip to about 200 grams silver, maybe 2.5. So the average life of mine grade at Terronera is about 375 grams silver equivalent. With these higher prices, we might end up being able to go into other areas, pull in some resources that maybe were uneconomic 3-4 years ago. We're still trying to determine all that. But when we get into the heart of Terronera, the thing that makes Terronera very special is its thickness. Over the life of mine, the 10-year reserves that we've proven out, the average thickness is 5.5 meters thick. Next year, in the middle of 2026, we get into some of the biggest thicknesses with some of the highest grades. The grades run probably 450, 500 grams silver equivalent, but ultimately you're talking about 8 meters to 20 meters, 30 meters thick in some areas that allow us to have a very low cost to be able to mine those resources and bring them to the plant.
Let's talk about the space you're in, Dan. I mean, investors are watching Mexico's mining policies quite closely. How stable is the operating environment right now? And what gives you perhaps the confidence to keep investing there?
Yeah, we've been in Mexico for 20 years. Obviously, global economic tensions have been high. Everyone's trying to find the right mix to be able to, negotiate with the United States with regards to tariffs, position itself globally with what we're seeing from a sovereign credit risk potentially coming. I think Mexico has got a long history of mining. There's a lot of rural areas that are dependent on mining. We've seen a slowdown in permits over the last couple of years. There's been a lot of rhetoric about open pit mining. I mean, for us, we think has very little impact. We don't think it's going to change just because of the free trade agreements that we have between Mexico, United States, and Canada. Terronera is an underground operations. Bolaños Guanaceví underground operations. We actually have another project coming in behind Terronera. It's always about what's next. And as I say, Terronera is going to completely change our profile. We're going to be 20 million silver equivalent ounces in 2026. We have a project called Terronera. It's also in Mexico. It's in the state of Durango, which is a long history of mining in that state. Ultimately, we think Terronera can add another 10 million silver equivalent ounces. So we're going to go from 20 million silver equivalent ounces to 30 million silver equivalent ounces before this decade is out. We've already got permits for an underground operation. We've got permits for a plant. We're working on permits for the tailings facility. We are really pushing at Terronera. We have high confidence. The investment there is going to be probably close to $500 million with regards to it. So we're comfortable in Mexico. It's maybe not as straightforward as it was 10 years ago, but find me any jurisdiction that's really not as easy as it was 10 years ago. So we're happy to be there. We think it's still a great location. Obviously, of the world's production of silver, 25% of world production of silver comes out of Mexico. 200 million of the 800 million we produce. So if you're in the silver space, you generally need to be in Mexico. And like I say, I believe in the regulatory environment that's there. I believe in the judicial system that's in Mexico. We've had great experience for 20 years. I don't think that's going to really change.
Look, and as I wrap up, I mean, we see silver doing incredible, right? But I got to ask you, at what price does this start looking shaky? I mean, if silver, for some reason or the other, tends to do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had that crystal ball. Ultimately, what I look at is the gold and silver ratio. And silver is so special in the fact that it's got the industrial qualities to it, supply demand, and we saw that kind of support silver through the $25. We've been in supply deficits now for 4 or 5 years, close to 1 billion ounces of undersupply. The growth from an electronic standpoint, greenification of the world, solar panels, silver really is a special metal from an industrial standpoint. And the flip side of that is the monetary side of things. And obviously, gold's the monetary metal that everybody tracks, but silver's had that qualities for thousands of years. And as gold moves, eventually silver lags it, catches up, and overshoots it. And I think we're now looking at that period. We've had this explosive growth from $34 to $53. Silver ultimately is still at a ratio compared to gold that's way under levered compared to gold. We averaged 65 to 1 over the last 35 years of silver to gold. Right now we're seeing 80 to 1. I think in the financial crisis, when everything was talking about monetaries and sovereign credit risk, we saw that get down as low as 32 to 1. So even if we get to 50 to 1, you're talking about $80 silver. When does that crack? I think it all depends on government policy over the next 2 years. And ultimately, again, there's a nice base that sits under the silver because of the industrial components of silver. And the monetary story is what's really coming to the forefront right now. And generally those cycles 2, 3 years, 4 years before we see peaks. So I think we're really at the start of that, and we got a ways to go before we start to see it roll over.
Yep. No, it does sound compelling indeed. Well, thanks very much. We'll leave it there. Dan Dickson is the CEO of Endeavour Silver. Dan, thanks indeed for your time.
Thanks for having me.